Pliny the Elder, author of the encyclopedic work Natural History, was a famous Roman historian. Though a genuine and world-renowned historian, he relied on various and often unverified sources for the various facts he wrote about. Some are, we admit, a little bit difficult to believe. For example, he even mentions once that if a mother wanted her child to have black eyes, she had to eat a shrew during pregnancy. Okay, could be true, I guess. But regardless, there were many fantastical tales of amazing and mind-boggling cryptids reported by Pliny that, if true, definitely make this a more interesting world than you might have thought. For example, Pliny told of a creature native to India, a lion with the face of a human and a scorpion's tail. His description of the Manticore emphasizes its bizarre and fearsome nature. Fond of human flesh, he has a triple row of sharp teeth, and its mouth is particularly wide. All the better to eat you with, my dear. It also possesses a terrifying voice, said to sound like a combination of trumpet and pipe. Another fascinating beastie that Pliny reported on were the dragons of Africa. Now, dragons are not so unusual, with folkloric accounts of them common the world over, from England to China. However, what is unusual is that, for one, an actual historian of Pliny the Elder's stature would have reported on actual dragons in Africa as if it were fact. But even more intriguingly, Pliny reported how these African dragons were in the bad habit of fighting with fearsome African elephants. These no-holds-barred slam fests between the elephants and the African dragons must have been a sight to behold. It was said, however, an elephant might often get its final revenge, after the dragon killed it, that is, by falling on top of it and crushing it under the bulk of its weight. We all know the modern fairy tale creature of the unicorn. Pliny did mention them, in fact, thought to live in India. However, the unicorn he reported on was quite unlike the ones we associate with rainbows and fairy dust. Rather, they were dark, menacing beasts, thought to be quite capable and quite willing to end any person that came within goring distance of their dark and sinister horn. Going back to Africa, Pliny gave a chilling account of the basilisk, which he called the king of serpents. The basilisk comes from the dry, sandy deserts of North Africa. Its most fearsome power is its lethal gaze. Merely looking at the basilisk, even from a distance, is enough to kill any animal or person that sees it. The power is so strong that the creature is believed to be able to kill birds flying overhead and scorch plants it comes into contact with. In addition to its gaze, Pliny attributes highly potent venom to the basilisk. He claims that the basilisk's venom is so deadly that it spreads through anything it touches, contaminating the ground and plants around it. The poison can supposedly linger, making areas where the basilisk has been dangerous for other creatures even after it leaves. Pliny includes a curious detail, however, about the weasel being immune to the basilisk's lethal gaze and venom. He claims that people in North Africa would release weasels into areas infested with basilisks in order to kill them. There were also the Cynocephali. This was a tribe in India with human bodies and dog-like heads. They reportedly communicated through barking and hunted wild animals. He even mentions that they wore animal hides and wielded weapons, making them seem both human and beastly. In North Africa, Pliny describes the Blemye as people without heads, with their faces located on their chests. The Blemye were later featured in many medieval maps you may have seen as one of the legendary races of monstrous humans in the far uncharted reaches of the world. The Skyopods, or monopods, are described by Pliny as a group of people in India with only one large leg and one enormous foot. This single foot allowed them to move by hopping rather than walking. Their foot was so large that they could lie on their backs and use it to shade themselves from the sun. And lastly, the Panoti, meaning all ears, were an obscure tribe who is said to have extremely large ears. They were thought to exist in cooler climates, but fortunately, their ears were so large that they could wrap themselves in them like blankets to keep warm. Must be nice. This may all sound like fiction, and yet Pliny did now and then get it right. For example, he reported on the Pygmies, the tiny people of Africa, who centuries later were verified as true. In addition, Pliny spoke of the legendary metal known as orichalcum. A staple in RPG games nowadays, orichalcum was actually considered a mythical metal only 40 years ago. It was the precious metal, in fact, with which the legendary city of Atlantis was thought to have been built. And yet, in 1980, orichalcum was found for the first time at the bottom of the sea off the coast of Sicily. So, if pygmies were real and orichalcum was real, was Atlantis real? Was the Manticore real? The Basilisk, perhaps? The dog-headed men? Who knows? Pliny has surprised us before, and he may well again. In any case, it certainly gives you one more good reason to maybe choose that weasel next time you're a bit indecisive when selecting a pet in your local pet store. Well, that just about wraps up tonight's tale from Lorehound. Join us as we sniff out more of history's most interesting stories.
As the hound dog entered the dimly lit library, he sensed an aura of mystery surrounding the ancient scrolls. The dusty shelves towered above him as he sniffed his way through the labyrinth of books. Suddenly, he picked up a scent and followed it to a secluded corner. With bated breath, he approached the shelf and pawed at the book, revealing the hidden scroll. As he rolled it out, he knew he had discovered a treasure worth protecting at all costs.